Overtired. So tired. Overtired.
Hello. You're listening to Overtired, a podcast with me. I'm Christina Warren, and I'm joined by my great friends Brett Terpstra and Jeff Severns Gunsel. And I'm back. I was in Los Angeles and then Sandy, Utah. So I'm back, and I'm glad to be here.
Sandy, Utah.
Long sigh.
It was beautiful.
Who doesn't love Utah?
I mean, look, it is beautiful. Like even the airport, which is, recently been like basically they raised it and it looks great. Like you see the mountains and it's a beautiful place. But the problem with going to a conference in Sandy is there's like nothing out there. It's just like barren. Like,
oh, is that actually the name of a city?
Yeah,
I just thought you meant Sandy, like Utah was
no.
Sandy in general.
Oh no! Sorry. No, to be clear, that was not an adjective. That was actually the name of the town I was in. Yeah.
Sandy, Utah. What's the big mountain bike destination in Utah? There's like a national park.
Not Moab. Moab. That's where the Jeeps go.
Climbing.
It.
It's the big climbing and mountain biking destination. Moab. Yeah, I have friends who used to make regular pilgrimages to Moab. I think that's where the big swing is, that you can like swing across like the desert. It's
that
huge.
Sounds fun.
It's like 80 feet.
I mean, that does actually sound fun. I mean, look, it's beautiful. And if I'd been there for, like to go skiing or something, then that maybe would have been different. I was there for DevOps Day, Salt Lake City, which again took place in Sandy. And I think it's because it was close to where some businesses were. But my only other experience with Utah has been in Park City for Sundance. And so this was not Sundance. Let's just say that.
Sure. Yeah. When I was a Mormon. Just kidding.
It sounds like the spoken beginning of a song. When I was a Mormon.
Previous to his career as an architect. Man, Ministry is touring again. Duran is touring again. The Cure is touring again. Skinny Puppy is touring again.
Like Skinny Puppy, wow.
Yeah. Taylor Swift is touring.
Taylor Swift never stopped. Like Taylor Swift is at least more recent. Like Skinny Puppy touring, that's kind of like, whoa.
Gang
like
of Four.
that is so like my childhood is back. Like I could get tickets for basically the entire lineup of like 1995 alternative music right now.
You know what's still one of the most bizarre collaborations of all time is Al Jorgensen from Ministry, who is he looks so awful right now.
Yeah.
And is a notorious sort of like junkie, like forever guy, and an asshole. And he had a side project for one album with Ian MacKaye from Fugazi, the straight edge.
What was that? Which one was that?
I can't remember the name, but
I remember
they did it.
He had so many side projects, Pigface being the most notable one, but I would love to hear what he did with Ian MacKaye. That would be amazing.
It's not that good. I saw Ministry in 1992. It was awesome, but
The Mind is a Terrible Thing to Taste, that era.
No, it was the one after that. The what is it? Jesus Hot Rod.
Jesus Built My Hot Rod.
Yeah. And I remember when it was Lollapalooza, the second Lollapalooza, and it was Ministry and all their like blinding flashing lights and dark colors kind of vibe. And then Eddie Vedder in I think a sheep's head mask holding like a long stick with some kind of head on it. It's very strange. This
has very rapidly turned into a very organic conversation, but I went to an art opening at it's a local bar called Ed's No Name Bar, which is no longer even owned by Ed's, but it's just he never felt like naming it, so it literally became No Name. Like if you look it up on Google, it'll be the No Name Bar.
Yeah, but putting Ed's in there means it's a name.
Kind of, right?
Okay.
But it became this real like arts hotspot. Like they always have like some local artists like all around the second room, and it's the crunchy hangout. It's where all the granola people go to drink, and they have live music. Like seems like four nights a week they have live music on a shitty little stage with horrible acoustics. But I went to an art opening there that was a women and non-binary art show, and it was like ages maybe 15 to 70, like just artists from all walks of life. And there was this weird theme of goat horns. Most of the subjects of the paintings were female, but they had goat horns, which is obviously like a masculine, as far as biology goes. It's a masculine thing, but it also has like pagan origins. So we had these long conversations about what does it mean that all of these separate artists were drawn toward the idea of goat horns in their
and that wasn't
paintings.
the official theme. It just happened.
No, it just happened.
You think you got like some sort of Satanist problem in Winona?
Yeah, satanic panic all over again.
Sounds like it. Sounds like it. Yeah, well, it's all the people can tour, and I'm still never going to go to shows.
Yeah, right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm trying to. They don't have the tickets out yet. They're just like, oh, like notify me when we know where we're going. But Dashboard Confessional, one of my favorite bands. I mean, it's really one guy, but the band is incidental. Sure. And Counting Crows, genuinely one of my favorite bands. Are touring together. Yeah. And so they're like two different generations. So that'll be interesting. But I'm a massive Counting Crows fan, and so
it's kind of like you when you look at like differences in dating ages.
Yeah.
When you're 20, dating a 15-year-old is out of the question.
Right.
But when you're 70, dating a 65-year-old, it doesn't matter anymore.
Totally.
And I feel like Dashboard Confessional and Counting Crows have reached an age.
Oh, 100%.
Where they can kind of be considered generational at this point.
No, I totally agree. But not only that, though, but like musically, like they're both kind of like, like songwriter driven, anthemic, like, okay, Dashboard Confessional arguably kind of like popularized emo, but like Counting Crows like was like some like sad white man rock, a little bit whale rock, in the August and Everything After and whatnot, which I think is like a perfect album. No notes on that. Like that's just a fucking great album.
Yeah.
Actually like that, like Recovering the Satellites and what's the next one, the one with Colorblind and Mrs. Potter's Lullaby, and anyway, those three albums are like awesome, and they're really, really good live. So
I was not a fan of either of those bands, but my friends who were fans, especially of Counting Crows, have seen them recently and said it was just fantastic.
Yeah. He is like, I remember, and this was like 10 years ago, he somehow was like on the cover of like AARP magazine, and I was like, no.
Great fucking publicist.
Totally.
I have the good news, I got you a cover.
It's kind of like Counting Crows is kind of like Dave Grohl for me, and like the Foo Fighters. Like I don't care about the music.
Yeah.
But every time I read a really in-depth music review, like Dave Grohl grew on me just because of his like just being a fucking awesome guy, right? Counting Crows grew on me because I would read music reviews from people that I respected that just talked about how, the depth of like the Counting Crows musical discography and how great the songwriting was. And I've heard some songs and I thought, yeah, that's okay. It's okay. But I have a lot of respect for the Counting Crows just because they have impressed people that impress me.
My game today is going to be bring everything back to Pearl Jam. I remember I was at Jazz Fest in 1994 in New Orleans, and I was walking past a club where a really big show was happening, and the singer of Counting Crows, was standing in line with Pearl Jam sweat shorts.
Nice.
It was like, oh, awesome, cool. By the way, Palehead. Did you say Palehead?
Yeah.
But that's what it was. Yeah,
I said Pigface, but Palehead. I remember
Palehead was Ian MacKaye and Al Jorgensen. Sorry about that.
And with the guitarist Palehead.
Yeah, no, that's Buckethead. You're thinking of Buckethead.
Oh, I'm Buckethead.
I don't think Buckethead had anything to do with that. Buckethead is a whole other story. We're talking about a man who joined Guns N' Roses and still did his special thing of a guitar solo that involved beatboxing, really good robot dancing, incredible nunchuck work, and then back to guitar. But and all with a bucket on his head, right? And a mask. Like, I could talk about Buckethead all fucking day. Because wow, but this is Palehead. Anyway, sorry.
Palehead. I think I always conflated the two.
Yeah.
Pails and buckets. They just
Yeah,
go
who
together.
can blame you? Who can blame you?
I have no idea what any of this is.
Oh my God. Buckethead. I'll send y'all a link and I'll put it in the show notes.
Okay.
But it's something to see. I'm telling you, this is a man who is a wizard guitar player, a wizard nunchuck wielder, a wizard beatboxer who only appears in public in a long white trench coat, a KFC bucket on his head, and a white mask. Just like a face mask with no facial features on it. Nobody's ever, for the most part, seen him.
So he's Sia, basically.
Yeah, he's Sia basically, and for until very recently, he was the guitarist of Guns N' Roses. So next to all of that was fucking Axl Rose. Like, it's just like the most bizarre. It's like I had this dream. It was a fucked up dream. This guy had a bucket, and Axl was there.
And that was really also Guns N' Roses are touring again.
Yes, they are.
Are they really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and
full original lineup.
Mostly, not.
I think not everybody.
I don't think Izzy Stradlin. Well, I noticed Matt Sorum's not the drummer, the second drummer.
Okay,
who I never liked, but
Izzy Duff,
Izzy Stradlin,
Duff McKagan
Duff.
was bass. Yeah,
and some guy Gibby or Gabby. I don't know.
Izzy and Gizzy and Dizzy.
Yeah, truly, it's just like a comic book. Anyway,
are they any good? I did not like Chinese Democracy.
Well, nothing could be good after like that much build up, but like.
After 10 years,
and that
after
voice,
10 years,
that voice was not made to age. Did you see him at Lisa Marie Presley's funeral?
Yeah,
he played like I think November Rain on piano.
He played November Rain on piano.
Fucking awful. It was like at least Elvis at the end was still, though he looked terrible, had the voice of a fucking angel, and to somehow put that man in front of Graceland. Wow. And he's clearly gotten to the point where he's not self-assessing.
Right.
You know, he's like, I'm a fucking rock star. What?
If he ever did. Yeah.
Like, he's like, I'm going to do November Rain.
Yeah.
Like,
alone.
Alone. It's like, oh, okay. Like, that's a really anthemic, like beautiful song, but like,
yes, it is.
Can you do it still? Like,
and he sounds like, you know, when you step on a dog toy and then you let your foot up and it kind of inhales. That's what his voice sounds like right now.
Stephanie Seymour has aged way better than Axl.
Well, yeah, totally.
What a strange.
That was a great music video.
It was.
Oh man, are you kidding me? Loved it.
And the guitar solo from November Rain.
Yeah, which goes on. And that was such a long music video, but it was so good. Like MTV would air an edited version sometimes, but like
that's right.
But when you could watch the whole thing, when they would put that on like after 10 p.m. or whatever, you could watch the whole thing. Yeah,
like the Use Your Illusion 2 version. Weren't there 2 versions of November Rain between the Use Your Illusions?
Oh, I don't think so.
There was one song. There was a song that was
Civil
repeated.
War. There was Civil War that was really long on one, and November Rain.
No, but there was one that was on both albums with slightly different lyrics.
I believe you, and I'm kind of sad that I can't participate, even though I listen to those.
Yeah, I was gonna say I have no idea because I really only knew like the stuff that was on MTV, and I was really little when they were like at their peak.
It's that the thing. There's a real demarcation with that band, and it's when Axl started wearing like incredibly tight spandex short shorts. It's like that's when everything just got a little out of control. But anyway. That's all I got.
I'm looking this up. Disc 1. Oh, it was Don't Cry, I think is.
Don't you cry.
No, wait. Oh, wait. The deluxe release had 4 discs.
That's recent. That's recent though.
Yeah. The only band that was doing multiple discs in that era was Smashing Pumpkins.
It was Don't Cry. On Use Your Illusion 2 there was an alternate lyrics.
Okay.
Yeah, Smashing Pumpkins is also touring again. I will not see them because it's not Smashing Pumpkins, it's Billy Corgan and whatever random people have agreed to continue to tour with him.
Yeah.
I did see a good mashup of Smashing Pumpkins Unplugged
Ooh.
with Dua Lipa.
Oh, that I bet would be amazing.
I'll see if I can find that for the show notes.
Because when they did Unplugged, and they did Unplugged more than 20 years ago, because like he basically retired, or said he was going to retire in the band in 2000 or whatever. Because I went to one of the final shows, and I remember he did like a VH1 Storytellers that was really good, and that might be I think it was that instead, but they might have had an Unplugged, but it might have been VH1 Storytellers that they used for the mashup.
The thing about Smashing Pumpkins is their songwriting in general was par for the course at the time, but his recording methods, like layering 15,
he was
20,
so ahead.
30 guitar tracks on top of each other and creating like the Ramones, the rock and roll era, the rock and roll radio era, like wall of sound. I can't remember the producer's name behind that, but
Phil Spector.
Phil Spector.
Yeah. So like this idea
Convicted
of the wall of
Phil
sound.
Spector.
Sure. Yes. But like it came to this head kind of with Smashing Pumpkins where they created this wall of guitar.
Yep.
Like Billy Corgan created this wall of guitar that you couldn't even pick out a guitar sound from because it was so many layered tracks. And that, like listening to Siamese Dream, the album, like the recorded album, is a totally different experience than seeing a live video because they were a studio band, in my opinion.
No, they were, although I think that they did well at live stuff because I have that was my very first favorite band. And so I have a lot of like bootlegs and like live recordings and stuff that I collected over the years. But you're right. And then I think the big thing obviously was Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness when he brings in the strings and the orchestra and again the layering, and then just has so many hits off of that album, which was a double album in an era when that was a hard sell because you didn't have streaming, you didn't have, other ways, like you had to buy the whole damn like 2-disc thing. But then, it's just the interpersonal stuff, unfortunately, kind of got in the way. And I didn't mind that like after Darcy left, I didn't mind the album with Melissa from Hole.
Melissa Off Tomorrow.
Exactly, Off Tomorrow. And man, she has to be a saint because she's
put up with some fucking shit.
That's what I'm saying. She had to deal with Courtney Love during like peak bad Courtney Love period, and she was dealing with Billy Corgan during like peak bad Billy Corgan. Like, holy shit, Melissa! Like, you deserve better.
Yeah.
How did this? So, what wasn't on our list of things to talk about today?
It was music.
It was music in general, especially like 90s music. Somehow we spent 20 minutes doing this. I can't even remember how it started. But that's okay. That was a fun for I'm going to guess our target demo. That was a fun little walk.
I think so. I think that was just like that was also a very ADHD like thing to do. Like we just went on like a genuine like ADHD tangent and we didn't stop ourselves. I'm kind of into that.
Yeah. I went to a 70-year-old trans woman's poetry reading, and she revealed she had just been diagnosed with ADHD at like the age of 60. And like she had always been a poet. She was very creative, used to be a blues musician. And just like all of my questions after the reading, like open questions, all of my questions were like, tell me about being diagnosed at the age of 60. How did that change things? Did it change things at all? Did that like change your view? Did it change your poetry? Did it change anything? The basic answer was no. I had just learned to accommodate my brain at that point. But anyway, sorry. That was an ADHD thing to do.
No, totally. Okay.
I like that you're like all of my questions.
I was gonna say, I was just gonna say this is a great segue to talk about our sponsor, ZocDoc, because if you're looking for a diagnosis and you need to find a doctor, I figured we could do our ZocDoc read and then come back and do Mental Health Corner.
Well done. Perfect segue.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. So if you are looking for a doctor because you're trying to find a cause for your symptoms. Maybe you think you have ADHD. You're having a hard time focusing. You find yourself kind of pulled down rabbit holes. You might fidget a lot. There are a lot of symptoms. You stumble down a TikTok rabbit hole full of questionable advice from so-called experts. And look, do not trust TikTok for health advice. I cannot say that enough times. Like, do not take medical advice from people on TikTok. That is how you get ants. That is also how, like, you potentially wind up in the emergency room. There are better ways to get the answers that you want and the care that you deserve from trusted professionals and not random people on the internet. So ZocDoc helps you find expert doctors and medical professionals that specialize in the care you need and deliver the type of experience you want. ZocDoc is the only free app that lets you find and book doctors who are patient reviewed, take your insurance, are available when you need them, and treat almost every condition under the sun. So when you're not feeling your best, or when you're just trying to figure out like what is going on with my knee, this is the thing I'm dealing with right now, and you're trying to hold it together, finding great care shouldn't take up all of your energy. And that's where ZocDoc comes in. So using their free app that millions of users rely on, including myself, you can find the right doctor that meets your needs, fits your schedule, takes your insurance. You can book an appointment with just a couple of taps in the app, and you can start feeling better with ZocDoc. So go to ZocDoc.com/overtired and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then find and book a top-rated doctor today. Many are available within 24 hours. That's ZocDoc.com/overtired. ZocDoc.com/overtired.
Speaking of mental health, thank you, Christina. That was a perfect one take read. Speaking of mental health, though, we do have a promo swap. We're once again swapping with Mental Chillness. Do you want to tell us about that, Jeff?
Yeah, sure. If you're looking for more mental health podcasts, if you're in the market, Mental Chillness is a safe space that heals with the power of laughter. That sounds nice. It's led by Con and Jules, two people with mental illness that come together weekly with occasional guests to share their daily process of working towards mental chillness. Coming from childhood environments that weren't open about mental well-being and emotional self-regulation, Con and Jules are opening up the conversations of the everyday struggles of dealing with ADHD, depression and anxiety, epilepsy, and growing into adulthood. They share tips and tricks of emotional awareness from their personal experiences and how they hold themselves accountable through personal BS. What does that mean?
It means bullshit.
Personal bullshit. Hold themselves accountable through personal bullshit. Okay.
Well, I think it's bullshit.
Check out the podcast. And the way they know how to do it best is with humor. You can keep up with them on any podcast platform and the YouTube channel Mental Chillness for full video contents. Mental Chillness. I'm just trying to help our own listeners get chill.
We're also on YouTube. If that's where you prefer to listen to podcasts, look up Overtired on YouTube. We even publish some fun shorts.
Yep. And I'm auctioning mine.
So...
Bump.
I'm just doing,
hi, everybody.
I'm just doing feet pics. Should we do mental health corner?
We should. Oh my
Sure.
God, feet pics. Don't do that. Don't do that, Brett.
I can't. I have this weird thing on my heels
Oh
that
yeah.
I think is like fungal, but they're like armored. I have like calluses.
Yeah.
That in case and I do not walk around enough to deserve calluses like that. Something is going on.
What about, do you ever...
I cannot show this to anyone other than a skin doctor.
Or a pedicurist.
No. They are so judgmental and mean.
I haven't had that experience yet, but I've only had a couple.
We have a technical college in town that has a cosmetology school. And you can, for like $5, go get a pedicure.
Student anything.
And I went. My mom convinced me. She's like, let's go get a pedicure. And I'm like, fine, whatever. So I go and they do a chemical bath on my feet and they scrub them They scrubbed them clean, it's nice. My feet are soft. They put a fucking clear coat on my toenails, which I hated.
You could say no to the clear coat.
I didn't know. I didn't know what they meant when they said, "Do you want a clear coat on your toenails?" I'm like, "That sure."
You're just learning.
Yeah. But the chemical bath left a circle, a circle of dry skin on the top of my foot that lasted for 2
Jesus.
years. 2 years. 2
Wow.
years I had this.
Wait, this was at the school?
Skin. I mean, I wasn't at the school for 2 years, but yeah, this happened.
No, but I'm
at the
saying
school.
this was the student pedicurist.
Yes.
No way, man. I was getting. When I lived in New York, I got a root canal from a student dentist.
Oh my God.
And at Columbia School of Dentistry, I'm like, oh, it's fucking Columbia. Maybe the students are just a little better. You know what happened?
Right.
So this was back in the day where, you know how now they give you like wraparound sunglasses, fucking barbecuing. And so this was before that. This was when they wore wraparound sunglasses. And he was wearing wraparound sunglasses for some reason, and he was doing the filing in my root with the tiny file. And then he stopped for a minute, and he's looking, and I motioned for him to take the cotton and shit out of my mouth, and I said, "What's up?" And he goes, "I just broke the file off in your root." And so he had to get his supervisor or whatever.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day,
the real dentist.
Yeah, all they could do was entomb it in there. Like it's in there. It's fucking in there. And I was like, could this be a problem someday? They're like, maybe. I'm like, okay, thanks. So I was done with student shit at that point. But he said this look on his face, and I'm like, okay, before you do anything else, you're going to tell me why you look like that now.
So would you leave your body to science knowing that it would be students that were experimenting?
I can't stand the idea leaving my body to science. I had a cousin who was in medical school, and he would sometimes randomly send me pictures of corpse feet while I was in meetings with my phone up. And I was so disturbed by his decision to do that, and it felt so disrespectful, right? Like, that I was like, man, I don't know if I could leave my body to science. I don't want someone just like toying around. But then again, I don't know. I'm gone.
I feel like once we get,
I was like, I'm gone. I don't really care. I mean, my whole thing is like, are they actually going to use it for anything interesting, or is it just going to be like?
I don't want it to be like the lesson for the day. Like, here's a kid.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. No way.
We should talk about green burial sometime. But first, mental health corner.
Yes.
You've all been waiting. It's time now. We're at 27 minutes in. The mental health corner. Who wants to kick us off? And the answer could be me, but I'll let you guys decide.
You go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm in this weird fucking cycle. Like anyone who's listened to the show knows that I have like bouts of mania that last 3 to 5 days, followed by a couple weeks of depression, usually followed by something that could maybe be considered stability, but still leans towards depression. Lately, I've been having 1-day manic cycles. Like I'll lose sleep for one night, or I'll get up super early and I'll just blister through a bunch of code and create a bunch of stuff and be like firing on all cylinders. And then before the end of the day, I'll feel it crash. And then for like 3 days, I won't be able to wake up in the morning. I'll just sleep constantly and then get to what is actually a pretty decent, stable, not totally depressed, which will last a couple days. And then boom, another like 1-day mania. And I don't know what to make of this. The cyclothemia is like the one explanation that I've been able to find, but I've not had a psychiatrist appointment since it started happening. So I don't have any any medical advice on what's going on, but it has been weird and oddly sustainable. Like I can work with this, like being productive every 4 days of having like a day where I do 4 days worth of shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then just kind of like sleep and then like have it come back instead of like that 3-4 weeks of like not knowing if it'll ever happen again. Just like having this rapid like turnaround. It's not ideal. Like, Yeah. It's not perfect. I have seriously been looking into microdosing.
Okay.
And like the people that I know that are doing it have seen major improvements in depression. And I think, and I've not run this by my psychiatrist yet, but I will before I do anything. But I think that like shrooms, for example, could help with depression without affecting my other medication. Like the reason I can't take an antidepressant is because it can trigger mania.
Right.
And because I'm bipolar, I can't effectively treat depression without risking elevating my mood too far. But I feel like the lesser studied realm of psychotropics and treatment of depression, and maybe even like ketamine therapy or something. But I feel like a lot of those could have positive results without the usual downsides of antidepressants for me. So that's a thing, and I will keep our listeners posted. I'm going to do this very carefully and under the advice of medical professionals, but it is something I'm very curious about.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I'm so curious about it, and I'm so curious about where like legislation goes, or the as we, because it's now to the point where like even like major mainstream podcasts are doing like the Mind Bloom read, which is, the ketamine thing is like a little dicey through services like that, I think. But
yeah, we have we have a ketamine therapist in town in Winona
Oh,
now.
that's great. Yeah,
yeah.
that's great.
I'm pretty sure we had them too, and we had Mind Bloom as a sponsor a few times.
Yeah.
We couldn't get them. Neither of us could
Right.
try it because of legislation stuff. This is what I think it becomes really interesting in how these drugs are like scheduled and how they're classified, because obviously people use them as street drugs and other things, but
Sure.
there are real medical use cases, and so it's interesting to see. I mean, it's dissimilar insofar as ironically I feel like it'll be easier to get legislation and make things like small amounts of psychedelics or ketamine legalized.
Psilocybin and LSD, like all of the laws surrounding that were just like racist to the core.
Oh, totally.
Like,
No, well,
there
totally.
was never never any medical danger to them.
No. But I mean, in terms of but marijuana, there's not either, and marijuana is this thing where
racist to the core.
Well, 100%. What I'm saying though is like marijuana is this weird thing where more and more states have it legalized, but it's not a federal. It's still illegal federally.
Yeah.
I weirdly could see them making carve outs for ketamine and psilocybin and things like that, like at a federal level, because the AMA might get involved in lobby and be like, oh, but this is this certain treatment thing. And marijuana, even though it's a great pain treatment and whatnot, doesn't, you know what I mean? Like they're not using it as like as a depression treatment.
Right.
So
it doesn't. What's that? It doesn't have clinical treatment value.
Right. And so it's this weird thing where like that's just strictly a recreational thing, and you can argue, hey, so is alcohol, like they're treated the same way. But the federal government is still like on their hands on it. But that's what makes this so weird, is like, okay, you have like a ketamine like place in Winona. You're like, okay, but what are the laws here? Like, is this going to violate? Because one of the questions that this is not even this isn't even a fake thing, this is a real thing, is that like if you're trying to apply for like a government job, for instance, and you admit that you've done drugs, even if it was under the guise of a doctor, like that could be completely disqualifying. So that opens up a lot of questions. Like you can't get a job for like the federal government if you're like, yeah, I smoke weed or I take edibles, even though it was legal in my state.
We have a PA locally who I actually saw him when he was at the the hospital in town, as a psychiatrist, as a PA, but he left Winona Clinic and started a practice on his own that literally bills itself. I can't remember the phrasing he uses, but he bills himself as a weed clinic. Like he uses pot to treat all kinds of psychiatric disorders. And he made the headlines of the newspaper as like basically the guy you go to if you need a weed card. And it seems sketchy to me because I don't see pot being a viable treatment for things like depression or anxiety for that matter. But that was what he built his practice on. I see a lot more potential for ketamine.
Have you ever seen the Key and Peele sketch where he's being walked into a doctor?
Yes.
It's like, he'll give you cannabis for anything. And he goes in and the doctor's like, what's going on? He's like, AIDS. Rickets.
I love Key and Peele.
I'll put a
Key
link
and
for
Peele
that.
so
That
much.
is the best sketch.
Key and Peele was like such a great show.
Maybe you have a backache. Nope. AIDS.
Nope. Yeah, it's just like amazing. It's a good bit.
All right. That's my mental health update.
All right, Christina, you want to go? I
Yeah,
can go.
sure
Okay.
thing.
Do it.
So my mental health is doing pretty good. I was out of town for a week, which in 2 different cities. So that was the first time that I've been like in a while that I've done kind of like a multi-hop thing. So I went to LA, well, Pasadena more specifically for Scale, the Southern California Linux Expo, which was really, really fun. And it was really great to connect with people. I met some new friends, and definitely it's a nerd conference. I met Ken Thompson and
Nice.
and like thanked him for everything he's given us. He was like so humble and nice. And then I was in Salt Lake City area, Sandy for work, which was, I got to meet up with a friend who lives in the area, but that was not as fun as Scale. But no, my mental health is doing pretty well. I was really, really tired. I took an edible on Thursday night and I slept for 13 hours, and that
Wow.
was magical.
Awesome.
A+. Cannot recommend enough. No, but I've also been talking to my doctor about potentially doing like ketamine and some of the other like therapies.
Yeah.
It's hard because he's in another state.
Yeah.
And he could find me someone who would do it, but like I would need to have someone local to kind of do that. And I have a really hard time trusting and like even wanting to go through the process of like finding like a secondary shrink.
Yeah, understood.
Which it's so funny. Somebody mentioned to me, like, you're the only person I ever hear call it a shrink, and I'm like, yeah, maybe that's an old like throwaway like
It's a
insulting term.
generational thing.
Well, it is and it's not. I think I've been going for so long that I'm just like, this is what he is. But I'm also like, I'm not going to my therapist. I mean, he is, but like he's my psychiatrist. So
He's the shrink.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Also, I don't mind like poking fun at myself a little bit on that, but that did make me think. I was like, oh, okay.
I think that's the term shrink. Like psychologists hate that term.
Oh yeah.
In my experience, like head shrinker.
Yep.
But for me, it's a lighthearted way of saying that I need like therapy.
That's how I feel.
That I need psychiatric guidance. And for me, like using in 6th grade, my grandfathers both died on the same day. And
What? Where were they? Both in Winona?
No, one was in Missouri, one was in my basement.
What the
we had a walkout home, furnished home in our basement where
kept grandpa down there.
My maternal grandparents were living, and they both grandfathers died on the same day. And I went to my 6th grade math teacher and I said, I gotta go. My grandpa kicked the bucket. And he sent me to the principal's office because I was so disrespectful about my grandparents' death. Like for me, that was how I was coping. That
how
was
old were you?
12.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
That was my form of coping, was to use a colloquial term to refer
distances
to
you from the pain.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I feel like shrink is very much that, like we use that almost defensively to say, yeah, I'm going to see my shrink, instead of I'm going to see a licensed psychiatrist to talk about my mental illness. It's shorthand.
So wait, hold on. I don't mean to make light of this or minimize it, but how close in time did they die?
About 6 hours.
Jesus Christ, that's crazy. How did they each go?
Heart attack, both of them.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
that's some weird
which is why I go to the ER very quickly when I have any kind of heart related problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, Christine. I didn't mean to hijack your mental health.
No,
corner.
that's totally fine. I'm basically done now, but like that's intense. Okay.
It was
super
a
intense.
fun summer.
Ugh.
Well, I say summer because it was towards the end of the school year, and then we had to go to 2 funerals. Like as the beginning of my summer break, we went to traveling around the country, going to funerals. It was fun.
My maternal grandfather died on my birthday, and it was pre-cell phone and everything, and I was out that day. And when I got home that night, on my voicemail was essentially like an audio diary of his day, where my mom would call me and say, "Hey, it's not looking good." Then she'd call and say, "Hey, he wants all the sisters and he wants all the siblings here." And then finally the call saying that he had passed. And it was such an intense way to experience the news of his death, because it really unfolded,
because you heard the things, and like you weren't able to like be there, and you don't know what's going to happen, until you get the final call.
And but here's the thing, it went backwards, because it's the most recent one was first.
Right. It starts with the new one, so you hear that, and you're going with it, and then you're going backwards. Oh man. So
wow. Wild. Anyway, is that you, Christina? Should I go, or do you have?
Yeah, you'll go.
Anything?
Yeah, I'm good. Okay.
I just have kind of a hack for my mental health check-in. I don't mean to constantly equate mental health with medication, but because I've been in a period that I was warned would be long of kind of trying to find the right medication for bipolar, I'm in a situation now where I'm getting off of one medication and merging into another. And I'm also in a situation where like I have lost my ability to kind of remember when I started taking any particular drug, or when I was taking certain drugs at the same time, whatever. So what I did was in my Google Calendar, I just made a little calendar event at the top of a day where something needed to happen, either where I started something or decreased it or increased it or ended it. Right. And I gave it a hashtag, like hashtag meds, in the notes. And now on my Fantastical on my phone or on my calendar, I can just search hashtag meds, and I get a really clear list of what's coming up. So for me, I have 3 or 4, this one goes down a little, this one goes up a little events over the next 2 months. And I can now just and I'm constantly checking it. Even though I kind of know what it is, I just get kind of like nervous I'm going to miss it or whatever. And so I just do that search hashtag meds, and I get my list, and it works on my phone, like I said, with Fantastical. I don't use Fantastical on my desktop, but it's a huge help. And it's also just important for me to know when I started meds at all, because up until February of 2020, I had never taken meds. And I started then, and it kind of to see how it kind of turns into 2 meds and 3 meds and 4
there
meds.
are so many times that I'll be something will come up in history. Someone will say, well, you did this thing at this time, which med were you on? Or had you, and I won't remember. Sure. Like I don't, those changes happen and they seem important at the time, but the actual dates, the way it correlates with things that I might not immediately associate with them is always beyond me. So that is a really good hack, to be able to just open up the calendar and say, oh yeah, here's where that med changed, and here's what it might have affected in retrospect. I might be able to see that.
Well, the other thing I've bet that's a little harder is, so if you get a pill that's 25 milligrams, but you take 75 milligrams, meaning 3 of those pills, right?
Right.
There's not an easy way looking at my prescription history to know when I went from 1 to 2 to 3.
Yeah.
I'm sure my prescriber knows, but I just went into my email, and I went into my messages and searched the name of that drug. And because usually I was telling somebody that I was going up that day or whatever. Yeah. So that was part of building that history too. Cause it's it's like the future and the history are both important to me. And it just, I don't know what it is, being able to look at the kind of boundaries of things just helped me to feel a little less sort of like I'm swimming in meds, it's just like, oh yeah, I started this here because of this. And, so that's been really nice for me. Because I don't love switching out meds. It's not a particularly nice experience. I mean, the other thing I would just advise people on is that something that my wife and I have realized is when I'm dropping an amount or adding an amount, I'm probably for a couple days going to just be off. And oftentimes that offness is like really irritable. And knowing for both of us being able to be like, okay, got it. It's on the calendar. This is happening right now. Let's remember, you know?
Yeah.
So
Elle is very good about like noting, like if I tell her, my psychiatrist says I'm going to make this change and I'll make it at my next refill, she will make a note because she knows that like my mood will shift, even though I don't make any special note of it, even in my own head. It's like, okay, yeah, we're going to shift medication. Maybe eventually things will get better with whatever problem I'm having. But she keeps very close track because it affects our relationship. It affects our interpersonal communication. And to be able to say, yeah, obviously you just made this change to the chemicals in your body. Yeah, that's really helpful. And again, like having it on a calendar, there's so many times that would have helped me.
Yeah. And I mean, the other thing too, is just knowing yourself and really paying attention. Cause like for me, I know that the most common impact of a medication change is that like, not only am I irritable, but I just find it completely impossible to be soft.
Sure.
Right. Like I'm just like all hard edges.
Because it takes energy to be truly gentle with people. Empathy takes a certain amount of energy. And when your energy is consumed with dealing with your own shit, like whatever happens in your brain when you make a medication change, you don't have the energy to like accept other people's input, to accept input and process it properly to have a soft response. And that can get real messy real fast.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's my check-in. Can I add something to that's really quick? That's about irritability.
Sure.
So I had a really bad fall trying to get into my car today because we're at that point in Minnesota winter where everything outside of your car when you park is like just a slope of ice basically. And so trying to get in our car in our little driveway, you have to like really brace yourself and all this shit. And I was carrying a big box, I was carrying a coffee, and I totally bailed and fell, and I was so pissed off. But at the end of the day, we don't really have room on our street for our car anymore because people are used to us parking in our little teeny drive spot, right? And I was reminded of when I lived in Chicago. There was the sort of a rule or a kind of a phenomenon called Dibs parking, right? And basically what that means is, and what that meant is that if you had a parking space and it was winter, you're like, the fuck if anybody's going to get this space. First of all, you position yourself before the first big snowfall so that you have the good spot. And then you hold it by putting things like chairs, or I had seen cribs or baby bouncers, or I saw a microwave once. I've seen it. I think I saw a dishwasher that they would just slide out of the way. And I am including in the show notes an amazing photo essay of examples of this. But I want to just say, Brett and I were talking about this before the show. In Minnesota, we've gotten to that point where no one gives a shit about anybody anymore, right? You're just like, you're so tired of dealing with getting out of the way in the car, and you're snow and slipping. And I had this thing happen, the ultimate Chicago Dibs experience, when I was living in Chicago in Humboldt Park. And what happened was the person who had reserved a space was watching another person move the chair out of the way and take the spot, and they went out and stabbed the person. That person, I think, was okay.
Thank goodness.
But I was like, that is a rule you don't fuck with.
This feeds into my mother's belief that Chicago is a hellscape of crime, and she watches a lot of Fox News.
Oh yeah, sure.
And basically Chicago is on fire and everyone is stabbing everyone. But
we were on a block that clearly contained a meaningful gang leader, and I'm pretty sure I knew him, but we just didn't talk about it because he was right next to my house. But like there was a dude who was about, I mean, he was big and strong. He was just a giant, and he would walk up and down our street all summer long, like on patrol. And the guy next to me was, I think, maybe on house arrest because he would never come out of the gate. So I would just sit on the stoop and we just bullshit. But like one night, a guy went through that gate, and I'm not trying to support your mom's belief because it's bullshit. Someone came through that gate and just shot up this guy's picture window right under my window. And
Yeah.
then just like took off. It was the crazy. Another time, a guy pissed the Latin Kings logo on a snowbank, which I thought was the coolest, most badass thing I ever saw besides the stabbing.
That's amazing.
Anyway, Chicago is incredible.
There's one picture in this link you had of, it's like a chair and a lectern.
Yeah, exactly.
Or there's one that's a Bears parking sign with an arrow.
It was nuts. It was nuts. Anyway, that's what I got.
The one add-on I have, we were talking about death, and so I'm about to leave on a trip to Michigan, which is if someone said you get a week off of work, where do you want to go? Michigan would rank way down on my list, but I'm going because it's where Elle's sister lives and her 3 kids, and we're gonna have it's like a family vacation, I guess.
Yeah.
Not something I'm super excited about, but we do get to stop in Chicago and in Indianapolis for
some great cities,
some fun dinners, some fun breakfasts, some good overnight stays. And we got a cool Airbnb for the week in Michigan. But anyway, the big concern is my 19-year-old cat could go at any time.
Oh, man.
And it would break my heart if he passed when I was out of town. If
Yeti.
He had to go on his Yeti. If he had to go and I wasn't there. Like, we are attached at the hip. If I'm around, he is with me. And we have someone house sitting. We're not sure yet if she is going to be comfortable with like all the medications he has to take, with giving him intramuscular fluids, subdermal fluids, I guess.
Like with a needle?
Yeah. Yeah. And like, because he gets dehydrated. But if you mix in, like, we have this cat food we call kitty crack. It's not healthy food, but he will always eat it. So we mix it in with like a bowl of water and he'll like slurp it down. And maybe he can get away with that, but like, do I leave a cat with an expiration date with a stranger, or do I send him to board at the vet where I know he'll get like the best possible medical care, which would cost about the same. What we're paying the house sitter, I could also pay the vet. We'd have to pay twice because we have 2 other animals, but it would be like $40 a day to board him at the vet we've been going to forever. And it's just like, I have all these contingency plans. Like, if I get a call, like I will have someone drop me off at the airport in Detroit, and I will just find like the fastest flight home.
Yeah.
So that I can be here to hold his hand.
Yeah.
And it's just this weird situation.
Does he get stressed if he's boarded, do you think?
He used to. He used to, like, any change of scenery, he used to get crystals in his bladder.
Oh,
which would have to be expressed through his penis, which was a very painful prospect. And this is how I learned that Yeti will never hurt me, is he would hold my arm. He would wrap his paws around my arm while a vet squeezed a crystal through his dick. And he would yowl and cry, but he would never extend his claws and he would never bite. He would just hold my arm until it was over, and then he would be fine.
Wow.
He is like, honestly, like I know he's my cat, and I'm gonna say he's the best cat.
Yeah.
But he is the best cat I have ever known.
That's awesome.
Is just gentle to the core, extremely empathetic. He's been an amazing partner, and I don't want him to die without me.
Totally.
Yeah,
So, okay.
yeah.
So in that case, maybe being with the vet, like, who do you think is going to call you more reliably?
I don't know.
Well, that's
I
a
don't
good
know.
question.
I think the vet would feel responsible enough or I think the vet would recognize a problem before a house sitter would.
Right.
I think the vet would be more proactive in that regard, because we're going to give the house sitter the best information we have, and try to give her an idea what to look out for. But she's not trained. She doesn't know Yeti the way
Right.
I know Yeti.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I can see discomfort in Yeti's eyes. I know when he's not okay. She'll have no idea. Because cats hide pain, right?
Right.
Like they make it all very internal. And I have 20 years of like knowing when Yeti is not okay, and she'll have no idea. So maybe the vet is, and he's old enough to not give a fuck where he is these days. Like you can take him anywhere and he'll just sleep. Like he's like, all right, this is a comfy spot. I don't care where I am anymore. Like he used to freak out about leaving home,
Right.
but I think he would be okay. I think he would just sleep all day at the vet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say the vet, and then I would like be very clear with the vet, be like, look, I want to be here with him. So if you're noticing things, don't like think that you're putting me out or whatever. Just call
Yeah.
me, because I will find a way back.
I will fly home. Yes. Yeah. So anyway, I guess that's actually part of my mental health.
I was going to say, this seems like this would be
kidding.
something that you'd be going through. Like this is a lot, you know? I mean, and then like, and I'm so sorry that this is going to be like hanging over you, like with this family stuff. Like when you're there, you're not really going to be there. There's going to be a part of you that is always concerned about your cat.
It's been like that for a couple years now. Like he's old enough that anytime I leave for more than a few days, like there's always the possibility that things go south while I'm gone. Yeah. And it always drags on my heartstrings to leave. And I can't just
not
sit
leave.
around.
No, you can't.
Right.
You know, I mean, no, that's like a difficult thing is especially if it's been a couple of years. Like,
yeah.
Because then then like, you know, you've had like the opportunity cost, you know what I mean? Like you're like, okay, well, I stayed home for all this period of time and it was fine. Like, what did I give up? And now it's like, okay, now it might actually be closer to time, but like I you know, can't
like
I can't continue to be in stasis.
My maternal grandmother had Parkinson's, and she was given like a year to live, and she went into hospice care, and she lived for another 10 years.
Oh my God.
And in hospice care.
Jesus.
For 10 years. And for most of it, I was the only person left in town. Like my parents had to move. And it was me living in Winona and visiting my grandmother. And it got to the point where it was like, she's never gonna die. And honestly, by the time we got the phone call, I got the phone call, like your grandmother has passed. It was a relief.
Yeah, it had to be.
She just kept and like not in a. She could barely talk.
Well, this is what I'm saying. Like it wasn't living, right? Like her, her you know, she was breathing.
She was literally just breathing. She wasn't mentally there. She couldn't do anything physically by herself without help. Like she had to be moved. She had to be picked up, put in the wheelchair, pushed to the table, fed food, and then taken back to bed. And it was no way to live. It's part of why my living will is very clear about if I can go, let me go.
Totally. You have a DNR. My grandmother, and it wasn't like that, but she was, she was in nursing home and she died and whatnot, but it was one of those things where she had a DNR, and we were very grateful for that, because when she went and we were there, like, you know, we'd said our goodbyes and whatnot, but she had had mental acuity in quite some time, because she had Alzheimer's or dementia or you know, whatever. But it was one of those things where, like, when you see that happen, like when you see like prolonged suffering, we were really glad that she had, you know, we had the advance directive to not continue, to keep her going, because God, that's a nightmare to be, you know, in hospice, you think, which is supposed to be for end stages, and then go another decade and then lose even more value.
I don't care how young you are right now. Go out, find whatever resources you need. A lawyer or the hospital can provide you with the forms, but have a living will, get your DNR in order, because shit can happen. And unless you want to live as a vegetable and be a drain on everybody, Get that in writing. Get that taken care of now while you're young, while you still have the option.
Duh.
We should do a whole episode on euthanasia. I feel like that would be a real upper.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say now.
Tune in next week, everybody.
Tune in next week when we have a live viewing of $1 Million Baby, a group viewing. Yeah.
Hey, it's gratitude time.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't talk about anything that we were going to talk about, but this
we
was
hit nothing on our list.
Zero.
I'll take first gratitude.
Yes, go for it.
It's not exactly an app, but the New York Post has a has a page where you can just look at their covers, and I've long both respected and abhorred their skills.
Yes,
and so I just want to give you a few examples from recent covers. Okay, for the story about the spy balloon being shot down, headline: Pop Secret. Pop
Secret. I love it.
For Sam Bankman-Fried, who we all remember is a very hairy crypto bro, Harry Plotter. How about that? That's pretty good. With another bit, they have a couple of bullets. One is begs for bail because he's a quote depressed vegan unquote.
What was the Donald Trump after the midterms one?
Oh, I don't remember.
It was a Humpty Dumpty reference.
It was a good one. Here's one that's about the COVID leaked from the Chinese lab. It had to be Wu. Ugh, God, I got a couple more. Okay. Baldwin, this is the subhead. Baldwin was on cell phone during gun safety training, which by the way is awful. Headline: Dolt 45. That one is woo. And last one is about the bailout of Silicon Valley Bank and its tech support. And the S is a $. Anyway, it turns out they have their own little webpage just for their covers because they know how good and horrible they are at that game. I am not in any way, shape, or form advocating
the Post
or endorsing for the work of the New York Post, but I remain in disbelief. So anyway, that's me.
It's kind of like great. The Inquirer. Like you can really enjoy the cover of the Inquirer without actually appreciating the Inquirer.
The Post is better than the Inquirer. Like it's a higher quality thing, but you're not wrong. But the Post is just, they have the best headlines. And I love the war between the Post and the Daily News. Like their ongoing like beef is one of the greatest things in media. Make sure you put that website.
I will right now.
In the links.
What's the UK? Is it the Daily Caller? Is that the?
Well, they have the Daily Mail, and the Daily Mail.
Daily
is
Mail.
The one
That's
the Daily Mail.
The Daily Mail is what I'm thinking of. They do the same kind of just fucking great headlines with just horrible takes on everything.
Yeah, and the Daily Mail and the Post have like some sort of syndication thing because both of them will pay for the paparazzi shots. So, and then like the Daily Mail, what I love about them is they'll do like this exhaustive like description of every single photo that you see in like the most like deranged way and like insulting. Or in some cases like weirdly like complimentary method, and then they describe the clothing and the like. Oh, you can buy this top just like this person that we're shitting on. It's really really fantastic. But Post headlines are the best. And look, Page 6 has some good gossip sometimes.
Yeah,
and I miss Keith Kelly's media column because he was great. He retired last year, but he always had like the dirt. So. That's a very good pick.
Yeah.
Did you guys see Neelay Patel's printer recommendation for 2023?
That was the best thing I've read. No. I saw it. Oh, it's so good. It's perfect. It's exactly what you would think. It's that. It is. Yeah.
The headline. This is from memory, but best printer 2023. Just buy the Brother laser printer that everybody has. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
That's exactly what it is, and it's so good. It was one of those things that I saw. And I was like, "Yep, this is accurate." And then it shows off all the different photos. The various
follow the link for whatever. For whatever we get the most affiliate profit from, that's basically what the link will be for. Just click it.
Just click it. They're like, this is the one you want. Like I've had mine for forever, and it has like photos of different like staffers, and it's so funny because this is what I've been telling people for years. I'm like, just get a Brother printer, like get the all-in-one, get the other thing.
Man.
It's fine. It'll last you forever. You just need to print. shipping labels and occasional documents, you're not caring about photos or anything else, just get the Brother printer. Like I made my dad get one of those, and then he bought an HP anyway, and I was pissed off. I was like, just use the Brother. The Brother is fine.
My brother, I believe, is kicking up the error it kicks up about every 3 years, because I've had it forever, which is optical photoconductor near end of life. Which I think is just the drum. I can't remember. It's whatever holds the toner, but you just replace that every 3 years and you're fine. Just
for clarity, the reason I got here was because Christina said that sometimes in the description they tell you where you can buy the clothing. And I was like, affiliate cash, and then that led me to Neelay Patel's.
Right.
Okay. Just to clarify the train of thought.
Totally. I didn't know. I was like, if that was gonna be your gratitude, although it was like a great thing. I was like, that's a weird gratitude thing, but
no, my gratitude. I really thought we were going to talk about AI this episode just because it's so prevalent.
Yeah,
right now.
We didn't even get to talk about GPT-4, but it's okay.
But and we will get to it because it's not going away. My picks for the week are Swift GPT. We've talked about some Mac clients for ChatGPT before. A newish one came out called Swift GPT. It's free. It gives you, this is since the actual release of the API. So it's no longer just a wrapper around the web interface, and you get an actual like iMessage chat interface to ChatGPT. It's really well done. For some reason, it doesn't have like Sparkle updates yet. You have to download new versions. But Mac Updater will let you know when there's a new version.
Hell yeah.
And you can put in your own API key. And it will tell you, it'll track cost for you if you have your own API key in there. And then the other one that is similar is WriteMage, which I discovered through Product Hunt. I tried it out, decided to pay for it. The developer was like, "Oh my God, thank you. How did you find out about this?" And I explained it was from Product Hunt. I don't think he's getting a ton of business, but he has written a ChatGPT interface that works with macOS accessibility. So you can just highlight some text, hit a shortcut key, and pop up a ChatGPT interface that you can predefine prompts on. So you can have like an explain this prompt or a comment this code prompt or like whatever prefix prompt you want, and it will insert the selected text into what it sends to ChatGPT, which makes it very seamless to, like, if you want to reply to an email, you like highlight the text that someone sent you, you bring it up, you hit reply positive or reply negative, and it will write your email response for you. And then you can click it and paste it into your email program. And it because it's a Mac OS accessibility application, it works in any app that has accessibility features. And it's, I think it's really well done. I think he deserves a little more traffic than he may be getting.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Fantastic. So my pick of the week. So this is something that I did yesterday. And I need to play around with some of these a little bit more. I'll have a couple of things linked, but I've been playing around with PAM modules, which is like Apple's authentication system. So that, you know, there's a way where you can add like sudo with Touch ID support to your terminal. There's like a brew command that you can install, and it'll even like monitor whether the PAM file has been updated or not. But I finally got my Apple Watch working on my iMac so that I could use that for sudo. But I found out one of my followers on Mastodon was like, I like that, but I can't use both Touch ID and Apple Watch at the same time. And so someone created a PAM module that adds watch authentication in addition to Touch ID. So if you have both, and like you want to, for instance, use watch when your the lid on your MacBook is closed, you can do that. So so if you have a watch paired to your Mac or fingerprints enrolled for unlocking, you can use the module to authenticate both of them. And so this is called PAM _WTID, and it is a patch on an existing module to be able to add support for both. Anyway, the GitHub, the guy goes through all the details of all the different things that he looked at and how he ended up having to do what he did. There's a thing in the GitHub issue that it might have some issues on Ventura. I have not played with that aspect yet, but I feel like we could probably find a way to fix this. But I'll have a couple of these PAM modules in the links. But this one, the WTID that does both is really good. That's not the one I installed. I installed the original Apple Watch one, which does work on Apple Silicon, but you need to update the make file, which and the developer has been MIA on GitHub for over a year. So
oh man.
So that one, somebody's created a fork, and like I could create a fork too. What I'm trying to see if I could do is if I can get this PAM WTID thing working correctly, I'll submit a patch to them, of course, but I might just fork my own. I would love to like have it so that do the same thing that the version that is updates it's installed and via Homebrew and it auto checks with any update to automatically update. Like it's just a bash script that runs and will automatically update when you install new versions of Mac OS. I'll see if I can like basically hack together like a Frankenstein thing that will do all of those things. So
nice.
Here's some weirdness.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's related to my messing around with the PAM authentication system, but if I use sudo in iTerm, any sudo command will crash iTerm immediately.
Interesting.
Sudo anything, sudo -s, sudo any command, immediate crash. And I've sent the crash logs to them. I haven't gotten a response. But if I do the same thing in terminal, no problem.
Fine.
It's fine.
Interesting. So what I would be curious about would be when the next, like when you have another Mac OS version, which will reset that entire directory.
Yeah.
I would be curious if that fixes the problem. So like before I would run one of those commands again, I would be curious if that fixes the problem.
I have an update waiting for me. It's just a point update of Ventura, which I don't think will reset it. But I also I removed all the PAM modules I had installed.
Right. But
and this still happens.
So
it may be completely unrelated.
It might be unrelated, but yeah, but is your sudo file back to what it was originally?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
removed all references to any additional authentication methods. It's still I can't explain it. I don't know why that. I don't know what happens when you run a sudo command that could possibly crash an app. Like I could see the command failing, I could see errors in the shell, but to crash the app, I don't understand how that could happen.
Yeah, that's weird. I'm not sure either. Yeah, I don't know. That could be a lot of things. That is the one thing I will say. If you're playing around with these things, make sure you back up your sudo file, because I did make a mistake with I had like a wrong character or something in mine, and then all of a sudden like sudo was broken, and I was able to just fuck with the permissions in Finder of all places.
Sure, yeah, because you can't edit your sudo file without sudo. It's kind of a catch-22 there.
Exactly, except if you go to folder and you find it in Finder, and then you like adjust, like you unlock it, and then you know adjust just the read write permissions or whatever. Like you can do it. I mean, I also could have restarted in recovery mode and had root, but I didn't want to like restart my computer. I was like, I actually still have 5,000 tabs open. I'm doing other things. I don't have time for this. So I was able to get around it, but I was like, oh, okay, this is why the one that has the homebrew auto update thing. This is why they do like they make a dot back of your sudo file. I was like, that's smart. That's what I should have done.
Yeah.
Can't say that I didn't do this to myself, that I didn't know what I was doing. But if you are going to be playing around with these PAM modules, yeah, make sure you have backups, because otherwise you could, then you can't edit sudo. You can't use sudo without sudo, and that's not great. So, but it's fun, and I do have to say, like, because I have 2 Apple Silicon machines, and I love them, and they're great. But my iMac is still really, really powerful, and I've got like the 2 screens. I mean, also connect the studio display to my laptop sometimes. But like in my office, like I have like my big like 27-inch iMac, and I've got the studio display, and like this iMac has 128 gigs of RAM, and
Sure.
a 10 core like beefy Intel CPU, and a really really good GPU. Like it's in a lot of ways still better than for some purposes, especially with VMs and stuff, than even using my Apple Silicon stuff, even if it like the fans come on and it's not silent. So what's annoying is that even though it has a secure enclave, you can't use the Touch ID keyboard with it, which is completely an arbitrary Apple decision. They absolutely could have done that because Touch ID was on Intel Macs first. And so if you've got the secure enclave, which this one does, there should be no reason why you can't have the Touch ID third-party keyboard. But you can't. And so it's really annoying for me to have to type my password in all the time.
Sure.
1Password's account is pretty good. I will give a shout out to Okta. We're just talking about authentication stuff because this is annoying to me. Okta now supports passkeys, at least my instance does, which is great because when you're logging in, if you don't want to have to reach around the back of your computer to find your YubiKey, or if your YubiKey, your secondary one is like in a bag someplace, and you're like, man, I really don't want to fuck with this right now. If you set up in your Okta settings, you can set up your phone as like a passkey, and then you can just scan the QR code on another machine. And then on your iPhone, it'll come up and be like, do you want to use the passkey that is saved to this account to log in? I'm like, yes, I do.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So passkeys are great across platform, and they're supported by all the different big, Microsoft, Google, Apple. It's a consortium that came together for them. And the Okta support really handy. Also, if you're trying to like look at ways to have to avoid typing in your password as many times as I do when you're on an Intel Mac. Or I guess if you were on like a Mac Studio or Mac Mini Apple Silicon one, and you didn't want to pay for the Apple Touch ID keyboard because you're like, I actually want a keyboard that feels good, and you don't want to do what Jason Snell did, which was like cut it up to like find a way to get the sensor into a normal keyboard.
I would love a Touch ID sensor on my ultimate hacking keyboard,
right?
But I'm not gonna switch keyboards just for the Touch ID.
Absolutely. And that's the thing.
Even though I hate using my watch, because right now during the winter I always have long sleeves on, so I've got my fingers on the home row. A prompt comes up, I have to pull my hands off the keyboard, pull back my sleeve, and then I wear my watch backwards for various and sundry reasons. But that means I have to like grasp my watch from the right and then carefully double tap the button on the left.
Right.
Because if I hit the wrong button, it'll dismiss the password prompt. It's kind of a pain in the ass, and I would rather, I think, in most cases. So I use key bindings. Don't tell anyone this. This is secret. But I use key bindings.
What? You?
And I have a sequence. If I type a certain sequence of keys, it fills in my system password.
Oh, smart. Oh, I should do that.
And it's a complex sequence. It like you would have to be me to have,
I was going to say you'd have to be in your brain.
You would never guess it, but it's way shorter than typing my system password.
You know who wears their watch backwards?
My dad.
Snipers.
Huh.
I do it because in yoga, if I go into like a down dog or anything on where my palm is on the ground bent backwards, it will hit the button on my watch and will set off the SOS alarm, which is very disconcerting to people in a yoga class.
Oh, you wear it backwards like that, so it's not that the face is on the bottom of your wrist.
So that the crown and the button are on the left
side. Got it. Okay,
I get it.
Now I do have a question for you. Are you a right wrist or a left wrist watch person?
Left wrist.
Same. Jeff.
Same.
Yep. Left wrist. Yep.
Yeah.
What
is that?
What
dominant hand
person? Yeah, I can't imagine wearing a watch on my right hand.
I can't either. It would be weird, and I assume it's because we're all right-handed, but I don't know. I did have to when I went to Disney World. I got their stupid magic band things, which are not stupid. I mean, it was
They're magical.
I bullied my two friends into both buying Magic Bands. I was disappointed that mine, which was still overpriced, was just purple, whereas they had like really like terrible like kind of themed ones. But the thing is that you could do most of what you could do with the Magic Band with your Apple Watch, but not everything. And like the Magic Band was great because like it would get you into the hotel room, and like if we'd chosen to do this, we could have even hooked up like a credit card to it. But it was like great for like, you know, getting into the rides, and like I stupidly bought the photo pack, like where the photographers will take all the pictures for you, and it was like $200. But I got my money's worth. I did the math, and I was like, this is how many photos we have to take for this to be worth it, and we more than did that. I was like, good. But
That's
like,
awesome.
but I had like, but it's basically the same size as an Apple Watch. So I have like my Apple Watch on one wrist, and then I have like the Magic Band on the other, and it was so weird having something on my right wrist.
I bet. Yeah.
Also, I had to use the kid size of the Magic Band thing, like genuinely, like it was one of those things, like they've got like a longer band, like clearly for adults, and then like you have to rip that part of it off. The kid size, it was like, oh yeah, I've always said I have childlike wrists, but now this is proof, because I'm only halfway through like this thing. Like there's no way I even could have approached like the adult one. I'm like halfway through the kid thing. I'm like, yep, cool. Anyway, that was also just a random tangent, but Pam WTID, and I'll have some other of the modules linked, because they're this is like a fun thing to play with and potentially bork your system. So again, make backups.
Totally.
Yeah,
it's amazing when it works, and at worst, it'll just break your system. It'll be fun.
That's awesome.
All right. So just a quick recap of all the things we didn't talk about today. We didn't talk about TikTok and acquisitions. We didn't talk about GPT-4 or Bard or AI. We didn't talk about how Samsung is full of shit, from moonpics to foldable phones. And we didn't talk about the post office. These are all things that may come up in the next episode, so stay tuned.
Not euthanasia.
Not euthanasia.
No, we're probably not.
You know
probably
what?
I don't want to rule it out completely.
Let's go straight from euthanasia to get some sleep.
Yeah, I was gonna say
get some sleep, but not eternal rest.
Get some sleep.
Get some sleep.
The system is going down now.